Nice. Hi guys, it's my birthday. And it's like what 10:30 a.m., 10:38. So I have friends coming over eventually, but not yet. So in the meantime, I thought I'd hang out with you guys. Yeah, don't know what I'm gonna do. Probably gonna make some stuff, answer questions if anybody shows up. Which this phase plant game going. And I've also been mixing down tracks. I don't know, this one's weird. It's difficult and complex, kind of it's like dense and lots of parts. I think I got it pretty good. I don't know. It's weird when I was with headphones on now. It's just like it's could be a little bit brighter. I'll just play that for you for a second. Yeah, it's super fucking loud. And it's interesting because it says TP Max 1.6, but I actually did TP limit this. So we're figuring it out. So I'm actually wondering about the because I added dither after the fact of the true peak limiting, and I'm wondering if dither fucks up your true peaks. Right? I mean, it makes sense that it would. True peaks are such a fickle thing. And if you add some noise into the system, you can change where they align and everything. It's kind of interesting. So I made myself this one-shot folder. One of the reasons Faceplant is better than Serum is because its sampler doesn't suck. And there's a lot of reasons Faceplant is better than Serum. There's probably like a couple reasons Serum is better than Faceplant. But the shit's so good, it's ridiculous. Anyway, I made myself a folder of one-shots from like all these different places. And let me show you what I mean when I say I made myself a folder of one-shots. These are not actually here. That's why they have this little link things. And this is what's called a symlink. I did a video on symlinks. Most people don't know about Brian, how are you? Hi. Hello. Well, there you go. Now I can talk to you, right? As opposed to talking to random strangers. Okay, one friend has shown up. So get this, dude. I took all my one-shots from all over various places in my sample library. Right, so let's just give examples. But in here, I've got like ones from Back Octopus, right? I've got, all sorts of stuff. And then we've got, this is just one of my libraries. Anyway, so I took from all over my library, everywhere, right? This folder, like my cinematics folder, right? Like, I have more stuff in here. I took all the good stuff and then I used symlinks, right? Which again, I have a video on it. So if you don't know how to do symlinks, just do that by put them in one folder. Right? And so now this has like so many tonal, like tuned one shots, right? Of like all the different varieties. Why? Oh, because I'm not sending it out anywhere. Oh, because I haven't even picked the sample. That's why it's not playing sound. They need to fix this, but it's actually easier to browse through folders and subfolders and stuff than the keyboard than the mouse on Faceplant, because it like pops up immediately, and then if there's a bunch of shots or samples in that thing, then it takes up all the spaces. I don't know, it's pretty bad. So Sematics and some of their recent stuff has done some really good shots, various kinds. All right, so check it. Let's get some volume. Okay, I don't like any of that. Actually, I kind of like that. I'm gonna put it down octave. Cool. Okay, and then I'm going to do a little pitch bend on this, because why the fuck not? Just like a little chill kind of thing. I want to do this unipolar, and I want to add this to this. Cool. And way less. Cool. And then I'm going to have an LFO that is more like random style. And there you go. I'm going to have this modulate the depth of this motherfucker. That's going to cause it to sometimes bend a little bit. Yeah, so sometimes you got like a bigger bend. And we're also going to map this to the decay and the attack. And then we're going to make this even more subtle. There we go. And then we are going to add a little bit more randomness to the depth. So sometimes it does go a little bit deeper. Actually, that's not too different from what I just did up here. Oh, fuck it, I'm leaving it. The VST over like 2 inches to the right so you can see the full window, right? Because I have a camera all along this area. I even opened up my browser window. So what if I like sustain this up a little bit? Put this down a little bit so it starts from the... Cool, and then let's add another one. Group, add another sampler, and let's get something that's more like pure, maybe bell-like or piano-like. Perfect. Hey Ryan, you fuck with Phaseplant yet? This stuff is so good. Oh yeah, I just did not follow my own advice on navigating this thing with the keyboard. And then like there's some really amazing one-shot packs out of there. Like I really like X Keys. Yeah, it's good. One of the reasons I got into it is I like the whole modular thing. I've made more modular and stuff, but with moving to Bitwig a little bit, I wanted something that I could like make presets and effects presets and instrument presets and stuff and go back and forth, that it's still modular. And so it's not only the Phaseplant, but it's also the Snap Heap and the Multipass, which are soon going to be able to be put in to try one of these while I'm here, but you're going to be able to put multipasses and Snap Heaps in here, which are like collections of presets, right? So what I mean by that is that if we are... Oh yeah. All right, so this is just an audio effect, but then it's, you know, all these bands and stuff, and you can throw all these snap-ins in, right? Which includes like all kinds of different things, right? And thus you can build presets for this. Like I've only just gotten into this, but I made like this weird lo-fi textury reverb thing. Right. it's freaking cray. Right, and does this chorusing. Splits it up into bands. There's some bit crushing on like the low band. Right, and you can get I know there's LFOs in here. Here we go. You can get LFOs in here. I'm hoping that they're going to better integrate LFO shapes and stuff, because you can do like custom shapes, but not in multipass. You can do custom shapes in here, but the other problem with this is you can't save your custom shapes yet. I talked to them, and another thing they plan on getting on their list very shortly is so custom shapes. Oh man, we're making custom shapes. This is great, right? Oh, I sure wish I could save these. Wait, what? There's no way to save them? That's dumb. But you can have 128 draw modes and other things to enter. I just have to remember these things. Or maybe it's like oh, that's it. It's like yeah, there's a few things you can do, but they're actually their wavetable editor. That's what's so funny to me, is their wavetable editor is got more stuff. I'm just like, well, why can't you build some of these drawing tools and be like, fuck this. This is actually really cool. I don't know if you've seen this, but you can like add effects that like occur over different amounts of time, and you can create wavetables by like blending in these effects. So you'd be like, effect, let's put self FM thing. Ranges or you can see along these ranges, it's like doing crazy shit, right? So it just made like a badass custom wavetable. And then I don't know where this came from. We're gonna put this on the wavetable position. Boom. Slow this way the fuck down. Start. In the middle, free sync, retrigger. No, we're not retriggering. Take off this. These are not going out yet, so go out. That does not sound good. Alright, fuck it, I'm getting rid of this wavetable. It's unnecessary for this patch that I'm making. Off for a second. Okay, so we need to like get this to loop right. Let's do one of these ping pongy kind of loops. This, right? Can I zoom in on this? Get like crossfade. Oh, and then here's another thing. We can add this one to the start position a little bit. This one can go to the end position. Length a little bit. Let's this out some. A little bit better. Cool, so let us, and this is lane 2, this is lane 1. Lane 1 goes to lane 3 now. So now they both go to lane 3. So this is lane 1. So I want this to do cooler stuff. It's like 2. Hi, Tomas. How are you? Thank you. Happy birthday. Okay. So let's go like it's like just filter. The car VQ is kind of like a custom filter. It's nice to get this. You can like go in, make custom. Well, there's a car VQ and there's this slice EQ. Is that it? Yeah, slice EQ. They're slightly different. Basically the same. This is more like an EQ, but you can make your own custom filter shapes, which is cool. Right, so we get right, but then you've got the actual filters, right? And you can take your modulations and actually modulate. So if we were to do this and go like, there's a way to get them to all move together. You can do it this way, but there's actually like a way to actually link them, I think. How to do that. This will do for now. Yeah, and then I'm gonna do yet another one. But this one I think I'm gonna do it with analog tuned sine waves. This needs to go. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And then this needs some reverb. Do y'all have any like questions? I'm just doing my thing, but like if you've got stuff you want to talk about, I'm getting deep in the mixing lately. I know, Ryan, you wanted to ask me some mixing questions. I just got that one track mixed down last night. Dude, that was such a pain. It was not, I mean, it wasn't like that hard, like, but it was definitely like one of the harder tracks I'd written in terms of density and complexity. This one right here. Yeah, but this one's really nice. But the mix took forever, and I still need to fix it. It's like a little bit. I need to 6K, so it's still a boost. I don't know. Like, I always get headphones and it sound right. Okay, so this guy needs some chorusing. I really like their chorus. I like their chorus, but I like their ensemble better. Really wish you could zoom into the waveform. That would be nice. Cool, let's get some better MIDI on this. Or I'm just gonna use step recording. It's kind of the best. Like my most popular video ever is on step recording. It's so funny. It's like I feel like I didn't even teach anybody anything. But if we were to be like, what's a good chord progression? So, like, go 2 chord. And also up here, I want some like high shit. Like, mixing wise, I'm curious to know what audio in general do you want showing up? Side audio, and what do you want? I put everything in the sideband. Like, I make a fairly faithful mix of the main band and the sideband using Ozone Imagers and often the Stereofy. And Ozone Imager, if you only have mono content and you don't use the Stereoize button, then you can't add width with Ozone Imager. Ozone Imager will only add the existing width that's there. However, if you don't have it, I can just show you. But I built myself. This is the more intense version, but just here, I'm actually gonna throw this on this phase plan. But cool. Cool. Okay, not very wide. There's already stuff going on, but if we didn't, oh yeah, so this is going in what it looks like. This is the stereo signal. Yeah, it is wide. It should be wide. I put on reverb and all sorts of things. Now, if we just listen to the sideband, so this is just the sideband now. Okay, I mean, it's fine. But it's not like, I'm actually gonna do one more thing really quick. This guy I'm gonna throw on the master, and that way we can also get the pure analyzer. All right, so you'll notice this isn't showing sideband information because as far as this knows, we're only in mono. And that's because the way I solo sidebands, which is also the way Seth Drake solo sidebands, oh no, that is not true. Why is that not right? I'm not on. I can just fix it, but I know my sideband is usually right. Yeah, this one's fine. I think it's just the one that's in my default set. Like, this exists in every set, like even if I start up a new one. So yeah, let's do this again. So I'm gonna give away this rack pretty soon. It's like a better version of Bill Gates' 3 Extremes rack. Cool. Cool. So now we're just sideband. And as you will notice, not too sidey. Whatever. This is the whole signal. Right, you can see the stereo information here. Right. So what I use is this width designer, which I made. And the first thing I do is sometimes your frequencies, you have frequencies that are in the sideband, but it's random shit. It's like you've got like this sound in the middle and then like random shit, different parts of the frequency spectrum shows up all over, and it's a mess. And so if that's the case, I will reduce the width. I will narrow it. So there might be a little bit of that, but mostly I'm starting from a more mono signal. Now, if there's a pretty good even distribution of sound across the frequency spectrum, then I might keep the width, or I might even add in some width if I like what's in the sideband already. And this, I don't know exactly how utilities work when going above 200, but it says it adds the middle information to the sides. I believe that's what it says. Yeah, it doesn't say it here, but it like quote adds it to the sides. Now, that's tricky, and there's ways to do that, right? Like they could just take the L plus R signal and make it R minus L. That will turn it into, it'll subtract out the middle signal and add it to the side signal. I think that's what they do when you push it beyond 200%. So you're losing mid signal as you do that. So it's not like Haas or something where you're adding in a redundant signal to create a sideband. So yeah, so be careful of going over 200 because you lose your middle signal. But if there's good frequency stuff in the sideband already, go from 100 to 200 till you get some more that you like, or you might need to narrow in order to get less of the random stuff that showed up in the sideband and start crafting something more what you like. So then I go into Ozone. Now the way I have this set up is I have it set up as a 5-band imager as opposed to the normal 4-band imager, just because, or I guess 6-band imager or whatever. I don't know. I just use 2 of these. So this cuts off at 199. If you don't have this power button on, it doesn't do the stereoize for this whole chain. So this whole chain will remain in mono, this whole band. So I have that, and then I have this one cut off at 199, and actually this should be off. This should be on. Why I did that? Let us now save this again. Yeah. So anyway, so this won't screw up anything in the bass, right? And then, like from there you can like add this width, right? And then you got to be careful about adding like the stereoize. Hey, thank you. I don't know who you are. Oh, Kumar Hans. Hi. All right. I don't know who this TCSG is, but thank you for coming and hanging out. If you got any questions, just ask. I was talking about stereo width, and I like what I'll usually do is I'll try and let me just give you an example. Okay, so we listen to the sideband. It sounds similar, right? But if I wanted it, if without this, it's still okay. One of the things you end up with though is like if you use reverbs and stuff like that, basically only the reverb will show up in the sideband, and like your dry signal won't show up in the sideband at all. So oftentimes you want to do the widening before you ever get to your reverb, so that you have a wide sound hitting a reverb that's also wide, and then you don't just get like your reverb in the sideband. Otherwise your sideband sucks. So if I was adding stuff to this, then it's just cranking these up one by one, right? So you can turn off one of these and then do solo. Be like, this is the sideband. Look at how out of phase this is, and see how it's pointing towards the left. Right, if we pull this all the way down, it's mono. Gets a little bit of its stereo information back. If this stereoize were not on, we already have a non-mono signal. We could pull this down, like the narrowness, like the width here, and start from something more mono and then add width to there. But you'll notice, and it'll depend on the frequency, this isn't necessarily centered, and so what you can do is you can adjust the timing, and if this is pointing left, you drag it to the right and it will point more towards the right. Eventually it'll point too much to the right, like here, and there's this happy medium right where even your subs are actually more or less in phase. Now this is still really wide, right? It's still really wide. 6. Right, and actually, because I want these linked, I'm gonna redo this here, but 9.6. That will make sure that's the same for both of them. Yeah, so you can see that this is nice and even, and we can pull this down. Right, you can see that we're basically in phase all the time. There is some stereo width to the subs. We're talking about subs right now. There's stereo width to the subs, which is not always a bad thing. All right, you'll notice we're in phase. So we are definitely, like this is our mid signal and our side signal. Our mid signal is not actually compromised. I could show you better if I had like sine waves or something, but I'm not going to do that right now. But then I would add in stereo width one at a time across these bands. You don't need 6-band ozone, but I can probably give away this with Designer. It's really not a big deal. I'll just throw it in the links or whatever. I was going to do a video on this anyway, but if you get your, this is like the Haas delay. If you get that right, then oh, thank you, Kumar. But what I was saying is, this Haas delay, the other thing it's important to note is see how it's tilted right? This is because I'm playing different notes. It's the frequency versus the pitch. So if you're trying to have like stereo subs, for instance, which is a very tricky thing to do, your sub, as long as it's mostly staying in one pitch, like or around one pitch, it's not moving too far, which is common for sublines. They usually don't travel too far. But you can get stereo subs that sound balanced in the left and the right and have a mid signal and a side signal that's full scale. Right, which is something I did not realize was possible, but you can see in the symmetry of this how it's symmetrical and it kind of like loops around. It's only out of phase and actually canceling in these very little parts here when it's really quiet, right? And everything that's loud is actually also in phase, right? You can see that this is basically 100% in phase. You can click on the in phaseness of this thing over time. Will tell you it's basically in phase all the time. And if you turn up the volume in your room, you'll hear it. At least with subs, it will actually shake the room, even if it's stereo. Hey, thank you. I try to give away knowledge. Like, I think music's the most important thing in the world, and if I can make the music of the world slightly better by sharing knowledge on how to make badass music, then I'm contributing, making the world a better place. But we're going on like stereo imaging right now. So yeah, then I'll right now we're soloing this, but I'll go through each one and I will listen to the sideband. Right now we're auditioning the sideband. That's what's going on the master here. We just have the side on. We don't have the mid on. Right. Right. So the sideband's not too bad, but I would listen to the individual parts. That's like might be too much versus this. All right, and then make sure these are soloed off. Oh, this device isn't even turn that on. But yeah, so now we're soloing just this band. We're in mono mode, so we don't hear anything. Now we're really wide, or just wide. Until the next band, and you can get it all in balance with like the rest of your track. That's the other thing. Great if you can make like a short video on how MS exactly works. Yeah, I'm going to do a big deep dive into mid-side. So you'll notice there's a mid-side compressor here. And this is one of the fucking secret weapons. I'm actually going to do a lot of stuff on mid-side and stereo imaging and mid-side compression and other stuff, because you can have a intact mono signal and add a side signal to it without any cancellation if you're clever, and make wicked sounding stuff. And a lot of the times these side signals are all over the place, especially when you make like use a lot of different samples, like for like a single bass line. I'll sometimes use like 30 different samples in a single bass line, and they're all like, some are wide and some are narrow, and they're all over the place. So reconstructing the stereo width, using mid-side compression to make sure that the transients and the envelopes of the mid signal and the side signal are moving together so that they smack at you together, and it's not like this weird wide and then narrow thing that is this big like wall of smacking into you. Yeah. But anyway, but going back into what I was kind of saying about this mid-side stuff, if you, as a default, get your side signal to sound like your mid signal. So this is the mid signal. This is the side signal. Pretty close, pretty in balance. If you do that with all your tracks in a song, your song's going to sound big and wide and amazing. And then also it provides enough uniformity and structure to deviate away from that structure. Right. And by which I mean, okay, say you're playing a song and it's like in A minor. The fact that you have chosen the notes A minor makes it so if you use a note that's not in A minor, it really stands out. Right? You put enough structure in there that you can deviate from the structure. People are like, whoa, that's not an A minor. Even if they don't know anything about music, they still might be like, oh, that's a weird note. Not a bad note necessarily, but you've provided structure to deviate against. Or like syncopation, you can only syncopate against a rhythm if at first you have a core rhythmic structure to syncopate against. Right? So you need that structure to deviate away from. So same thing with your mid-side. If you want something that's really narrow, or if you want your song to become narrow, or anything involving narrowness or width, you need to have enough structure and uniformity of the width of your, and like, careful crafting of the width of, stereo image of your whole project, such that it is organized enough so that you can do things like, oh, every time my snare hits, the whole track's going to get like sucked in narrow, but my snare is going to be really wide. And so it's going to be like, and it's not hard to do. You just need to sidechain compress out everything but your snare's side signal by the snare. And then your whole track gets snuck in as your snare hits, and your snare hits as this big, wide, giant wall. Super effective, right? But until you have this nice, well-defined side image, well-defined edges, such that you can take those edges and squeeze them in, people aren't going to hear it if things are just hodgepodge. You got a bunch of narrow sounds already. There's like this one wide sound, but maybe it's not even playing when you're snaring, right? But if your whole thing is nice and wide, suck inward, right, you're going to really get the effect that you're going for, right? So yeah, having a default of having your sideband sound like your mid-band is a good place to start for getting that structure, right? And just as an example, so this is a track I just finished mixing down last night. It's not perfect. I'm still going to tweak little things, but what you'll hear as we do this mid-band sideband thing is exactly what I was talking about. All right, so this is the track. Right. If we then take out the mid signal, so this is in a mono, clearly mono compatible. This is the sides. Sounds fucking awesome. The stereo sounds even awesomer. Now check this. The other thing is, this is just the right channel. And this is just the left channel. You can't even tell. Now I bring that up because a lot of stuff will fuck up your left channel and your right channel individually in hopes of making the signal wide, but the what am I trying to say? Trying to get the signal wide and to remain mono compatible. What mono is it's L plus R. So say this is L and this is R. Well, L plus R is like that. If I move one up and one down, L plus R is going to be the same. It's like L minus 1, R plus 1. It's going to equal out to be the same. So a lot of things will do this to your left and right signals such that they add up to the same thing in mono, but they've then created a difference, which is the L minus the R, the distance in between, the difference, like subtraction. That's what the side signal is. So they've created this difference, right? Now, that's always going to happen to some extent. Anytime you add a side signal, you got to be changing your left and rights up and down to create a side signal. But let's just say you did it so it was always like this, and now basically you're panned right because your right's always louder than your left. You're kind of fucked. So I'm going to show you the biggest culprit of this, which is Wider by Infected Mushroom. I used to use this all the time until I realized it was fucking up everything. Okay, Wider, it works great. It's mono compatible, right? Theoretically, it leaves your left plus your right, your mono signal intact. So let's just take a listen to that. We're going to listen to the mono. So we're just listening to mono. That's fine. It's not changing anything. Let's listen to the side signal. Cool. Okay, so it's clearly adding to the side signal. That's what we wanted it to do because it's wider. We want to make things wider. But now let's listen to the right channel. Just do you see how different that is at every position? Now listen to the left channel. I'm going to use this swap button, which is going to swap the left and right. So it's going to be like only the left as soon as I do it. But listen. That's the left channel. This is the right channel. Let's go somewhere else. This is the left channel. This is the right channel. They sound completely different, and they both sound fucking terrible, right? What Wider does is it applies a comb filter to each side, and they're inverted. So if you don't know what a comb filter looks like, it's one of those cha 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 cha. You know, it goes up and down and up and down and up and down, and it does that because at 1x, 2x, 3x, 4x times the frequency, it's reinforcing or it's canceling out, right? So you think about waves. If like you have a 20 hertz wave that is getting reinforced, and a 40 and a 60 and an 80, etc., 100 hertz waves are all going to get reinforced, and other waves are going to get canceled out. That's basically what a comb filter does. Like rooms cause comb filtering because of the length of the room. Certain waves are going to get reinforced based off the length of the room versus the wavelength. Certain waves are going to get canceled out. Okay, so that's comb filtering. You do opposite comb filtering. You're like, okay, let's boost all the frequencies, you know, and maybe I'll just show you a little bit, but creative effects. Serum Effects is pretty good for this. Because they've got comb filters and pictures, but we've got no. You got me. That's not a thing. All right, fuck it. I'm gonna. Actually, let me see if I can just. They've got comb filters in Phase Plan. If I can see it. Cannot see it. Let's just open Serum. But you know, so it's comb filtering on both sides, right? It's increasing on the left side and decreasing on the right side, or vice versa, depending, right? So you can see this, right? You can kind of see this down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. You can mostly ignore all this stuff when it doesn't get enough resolution, but this is like ×1, ×2, ×3, ×4, ×5, the frequency. And so if you had another one that was like a flipped version of this on the right channel, they had a left channel and a right channel, they would sum to 0 in theory. If you had like perfectly symmetrical and inverted comb filters, they would sum to 0 on the left channel and the right channel on every single frequency. You know, you've got a bell up on the left hand and a bell down on the right hand, or vice versa, depending on where you are in this, but it adds out to 0. Right, so the middle signal's not affected, but the left channel's fucked and the right channel is fucked. If you stick this on anything, your left channel is going to be fucked and your right channel is going to be fucked, right? Now, you might not care if it's like some swirly spectral background pad, but if it's like your lead vocal or it's like anything a listener is going to be paying attention to, then you've got a serious problem. So maybe you thought about monocompatibility and you thought about the stereo, which is fine, but what if someone's listening with just one headphone, right? Or what if they're standing in front of just the right speaker at your show? Right. In that case, if you're using Wider, it's going to end up like this. You're going to be like, oh, I'm just standing just in front of the, in this case, the left speaker. And it's going to sound all comb filtered and fucking horrible. I mean, this I'm doing it on the whole track, but if you do it on individual elements, all your individual elements are also going to be fucked up, right? And so you're like, oh, this is what your right audience is hearing. Like your people in front of the right speaker. This is what people in front of the left speaker are hearing. It's like completely different songs. Yeah, it's completely different songs. Neither of them sound good, and it's only when they get added together that the comb filters cancel out and you get what your song actually sounds like. Right, so yeah, this is what the song actually sounds like. Yeah, I mean, except for it's still got Wider. But yeah, so fuck that shit. I don't want to ruin my left channel or my right channel individually just to gain some width. So I've stopped using Wider and started using Ozone Imager for that reason, because you can actually get things that are not only have a full, like a, you know, as large of a wide signal as you want without compromising your middle signal, but it's also symmetric left and right, which seems like it's not something that you could achieve all at once, is have a big difference between the left and right, but also have a big coherence between the left and right, and also have the left and right be symmetrically balanced. And it's just like, how would you even do such a thing? And the answer is with shapes. Where'd that go? Yeah, the answer is with that's serum still. Here we go. Shapes like this, right? Not this one, but this, right? So this is balanced on the left and the right, but it's still wide and it's still in phase, right? And so you can listen to the mid and side signals, and it's intact. I don't know if you can hear that. Probably not. Yeah, probably not. There's not a lot of sub signal on this. And then also might be, yeah, but so anyways, you need to adjust this to get, again, to get these things to be symmetrical, right? Because here you can see it is fucking up the left versus right signal. Mono signal will stay intact, but it is fucking it up because my Haas delay time is off based off of the frequency of the notes I'm playing, right? And that's tricky. In order to have a wide signal and a mid signal, your left and right channel kind of need to be 45 degrees out of phase. This is like another thing I'm ultimately going to cover. But let's just narrow this a little bit, and then I'll show you what I mean by that 45 degrees out of phase. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Right now, this is the mid and side. I'm going to look at the left and the right. And where is my red? Oh, it's there. Yeah, but they're basically in phase, which is why you can't see them. Oh, I think one of my buddies is here. Oh, I'm gonna run downstairs for 1 second. One of my buddies. I was mistaken. I have friends coming in and out all day. But it's still like earlier than noon here. But what you'll find, I wish I could get better colors, but it's not doing the colors right now, which is weird. Turn back on and turn this off. We like decrease the. There we go. Now we can see both. Okay, so we're still basically in phase all the time. You can see we're basically at +1 all the time. Even if we just solo the subs, right, depending on where we put this, we can get it in phase. And once we do, even if we're very wide, let's take a look at how these waves line up. They're still basically perfect in phase. So there's a little bit of difference, but they're essentially in alignment despite being stereo. And then usually they're a little bit more, like the mid signal here is not massive. We get a bigger one. This is extra This is also easier to show with sine waves. Let's do that. I'm gonna, there's like an actual like more scientific way to demonstrate this very fine point that I'm trying to illustrate. Let's use sine waves. We can even use the spread here. So let's just grab a signalizer. If you're not using signalizer yet, it's so good. I don't know what to tell you. Like all the other oscilloscopes just wish or something. Cool. So, all right. So now we've got this mid-side signal. If we hit this spread, it's going to give us a side signal. You can see these two signals. Let us turn off the color blending. Cool. So this is the mid and the side signal, and they are going in and out of phase, or sorry, in and out, because basically you've got a left channel and a right channel that are detuned. All right. So let's look at the left channel and the right channel. Actually, let's do both at once. Cool. So this one will be left and right. And right, so if we just have a wave, you can see the white wave is traveling slightly slower than the left wave, and so now they're out of phase. Right, they're in phase, they're out of phase, they're in phase. When they're in phase, all we have is the pink signal down here, which is the mid signal. When they're out of phase, all we have is the white signal, which is the side signal. Now, watch what happens when I take a mid-side compressor and we are going to put the threshold all the way down, the attack all the way down, release all the way down, threshold all the way down, and let's also, for good measure, throw in like 50 decibel, 12 decibels of gain or something into this. Cool. So now the left and the right, that's yeah, so minus 30. This is the mid signal. Good. I'm going to use a regular compressor instead of the glue compressor because this is soft clip mode on it, which kind of cool. So again, this is the mid signal that I'm compressing, and what I'm really trying to do with this is just get it nice and even. Volume. All right. Oh, I know. This is so funny. The reason it's not working is because I put this mid-side compressor after the signalizer. No fucking shit. That's hilarious. Okay. So I'm like making all these changes and we're like looking at for the change that I make. Okay, cool. So now we've got what I really want. Yeah, so these are staying the same. Cool. Same volume. Ignore the change in shapes. That's just coming from this being too fast. If we put this at like 3 milliseconds or something and this at 3 milliseconds, that'll largely fix those shapes. We're literally changing the wave shapes from compressing so fast. But what I want you to see how these and these are now in lockstep. Remember how these used to be out of tune and the white one was moving slower. Check it. Oh man, the white one is moving slower and so it's phasing back. They're different pitches. That's what this spread knob does, right? So here's this spread knob in more action, right? And then we get mid-side and side signals trading on and off, right? This is just a mono signal. You do something in between, right? It's less detuned. That's all this side thing is, or this spread is doing in operator. Now we throw in this mid-side compressor. All of a sudden, our mid and sides are both large, right? They're both like full scale basically. And we forced our detuned notes into being in tune? Go figure, right? So our detuned notes are now in tune. But what I want you to look at is two things. One, we have a very wide signal, right? And a very loud mono signal. Very loud mono and very loud side signal at the same time. That is because, yeah, check it. Isn't this crazy? Like look at this. We're like filling up the whole thing, right? And if you look at this, we're in phase, sort of. Right. Let's just examine this, right? So we're not entirely in phase. We're like 45 degrees out of phase. So when this is at 0, this is at its bottom, and then this is starting to go up, right? So let me show you again. But right, when we are at 0, 0, some of these fucking grid. There we go. Okay, so there's 0. When we are at 0, it'll also help to do it this way. But when we're at 0, this one above it is at its maximum, basically. So it's just out of phase for just a moment here, right? And then this is going down, and they're going down together. And so the side information is basically staying the same for a minute, right? But then they're going down together, and then they're going back up together, and they're going back down together. And they are briefly on different sides of the line, but when they are on different sides of the line, they're still moving together. So if you can imagine like your subs or something, they're like pushing together. They're not going like this, right? They're going like this, right? And when you add this together, what you get is the mid-side signal looks exactly the fucking same, basically, right? Now, what that means is you have an intact mono signal and you have an intact side signal. And yeah, they're a little bit delayed from each other, but that's basically what Haas does, right? You have this little tiny delay, and then the side signal, instead of being an L plus R, it's an L minus R. So you just invert one of the sides. So that's how the stereo imager works for ozone, is they'll do a little delay, right? And in this case, you can see this is like 2 point something milliseconds to get from here to here. Right, that Haas delay would give you this kind of same kind of thing, right? If you delayed the left channel and the right channel by, so this says 39, like 40 milliseconds basically, and then this is 38. So 2 milliseconds, or if you went from here to here, that would be the same. So that would be almost 10 milliseconds. Right, would also give this symmetrical flanged kind of both wide signal and mono signal. So you can have a loud mono signal and a loud stereo signal, and guess what? It's louder than just a loud mono signal because you're adding in strictly mono signal. You're adding in the wide signal on top of already having a mono signal, so you can get even louder than you would have thought possible. You can get louder than full scale at full scale. It can be full scale mono and full scale wide at the same time. Joram, where did I learn all this? That is a good question. I've been studying for years and years and years and years, and I did a lot of music before I did production. I've learned a lot from the Producer Dojo. So if you're looking for excellent, highest quality education, Bill Gates runs a Producer Dojo, and although he's not taking new students, there is what's called the weekly download. You can get it at theweeklydownload.com, but he's got like 200 at least videos, and he's one of the best producers out there. Like freaking genius, knows everything. He's got 200 videos going through all these different stuffs, and tons of giveaways, tons of everything. I mean, it just goes on and on. So I've learned a lot of stuff from Bill Gates, and then he helped take me to the next level. And then I used the stuff that he taught me and did more research. I run tests and experiments and other stuff like that. Like what I'm talking about right now, I did not learn this from anybody. I learned this exactly how I'm showing it to you now is by thinking about these things and then running experiments with the spread and with mid-side compressors and really trying to understand what it would take to get a both wide signal without compromising your mono signal, and really learning about I mean, it's not hard to figure out what a mono signal versus a side signal is. There's resources all over the internet. Yes, you totally can. Totally can. And it's $5 a week. And there's downloads on most of them too. There's like a ton of like samples, like badass racks, just like the value of what is available on there is insane. Like I said, it's $5 a week. You can get on it just 1 week if you want. You could download everything, watch all the videos. I mean, you do you, but it's super cheap. It's the best deal for music education on the internet as far as I'm concerned. And because it's by one person who knows like a ton, there's not a lot of redundant stuff. You know, he covers all the bases. It's not like you're watching 70 beginner tutorials on how to like make 808s or something like that. But yeah, he's probably the best music educator for electronic music production on the planet. And yeah, so there's a ton of information there. So if you can't learn stuff on my channel, which is admittedly difficult, I tend to make it pretty advanced, and oftentimes I don't do things like explain what phase is, and then people are like, I don't know what phase is. I hear you. But for the rest of the people who do know, let's go explain it for a while. But you know, you can't explain everything like you're explaining it to a newbie, otherwise you'll never explain anything advanced. And I'm trying to actually get some advanced tutorials out there. Oh, I'm sharing my birthday. I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, I've got a bunch of friends showing up. We're gonna have a party here and stuff, but it's like not even noon yet. So I told no one to come this time. So yeah, I just figured I'd hang out with you guys because you guys are also my friends. But yeah, so yeah, mid-side compression, like this song here, the bass line. I think I did a video on that too. I like go through how I wrote this bass line or something. But I use like these 128s of bass shots, and so there's like probably like 60 samples involved here. Let me just play a section that has bass. Wait, why do I not hear you? Oh, because we don't have the mid channel or the side channel on. Cool. So yeah, so this bass line. All right, so the side, listen to the side channel. Right, it's pretty good, right? Yeah, right. Definitely a drunk dog day, sort of. I don't know. People are bringing me alcohol, so I'm drinking right now. So yeah, probably. But the bass line, it sounds good wide. The only reason it sounds good wide is because I had to. It's like 50 different samples. Some of them were really wide. It is all inconsistent. I had to narrow it down, reintroduce width by the tools I was talking about earlier, like this width designer. I built literally just to deal with that fucking bass line. I was like, 3 bands was not enough to get the nuance that I wanted. And just I needed to narrow it before I got into it, and then I wanted to widen it after I got out of it and monitor the waves coming in versus the waves going out kind of thing. You know. Nice. So that's why I built this guy. But that was a pain in the ass, and it never would have been possible without both the mid-side compression and the narrowing and the reintroducing width. And again, the other thing is you gotta be very meticulous about your timing and versus the pitch, and make sure that you stay symmetrical. You gotta listen to that shit in headphones. I recommend the earplug kind of headphones if you're doing subs. Like if you're trying to make stereo subs at all, which is again an advanced thing to do. and you could debate how beneficial it is, but if you listen on like headphones, like the in-ear earbud kind of things, dude, really good stereo subs sound so brutal. And then you go back into mono, like if you test it in mono, it's still shaking the fucking room. And it's like, oh man, best of both worlds. Not easy to accomplish, but when you do, it sounds so good in your ears for some reason. Because again, the mono signal's intact. So you have that, and then you have like a second wide signal. It's like, yeah, two subs somehow. But really it's like one sub, but they're out of phase just 45 degrees, not entirely, right? But they're just a little bit out of phase, like those pictures I showed you, right, where it's just like they're going up and down together. So you get that in ears, and you get that difference level, and the subs end up sounding really, really good. Yeah, so that's a thing. Oh, I was in the middle of making MIDI, and we never got around to that. Oh, let's So that was the 5. And then the second time I'm going to duplicate this, and then instead of using a 5 chord, we are going to make this a 3 chord. Just by sticking a note under it. And we're also going to make this A minor by using a G sharp. That doesn't make sense to you. We can talk about that, but cool. So then I usually like to, oh, this isn't even velocity sensitive yet. We've got things to do. Yeah, no, it's not even velocity sensitive yet. So we need to add MIDI velocity and add a little bit of this to the gain. Yeah. 40, that sounds right. Turn this all the way up. Good. Cool. Another thing we need is MIDI effects. So one of the easiest tricks, I've been making a bunch of these pattern creators, but one of the easiest tricks you can do is split the layers so that you have the regular incoming notes, and then you have this quieter, significantly quieter arpeggiation that's like going really fast. Cool, that's pretty good. And then I wanted to add some other stuff, like some melody line kind of stuff. Oh, the other most important trick with arpeggiators is this note button. If you're careful about the notes, then you can re-trigger the pattern, and then there's a bunch of ways to it. So like if you go, let's just listen to this guy. All right, notice how it starts at the top and then goes down. That's because I did this offset -1, so it's gone one step back in the pattern. In this case, it's going from the lowest note to the highest note. If you go backwards 1, it's going to start at the highest note, which is your melody note. Right, so if we want to add melodies on top of this, we could be like, yeah, like, oh, go up an octave. So 1, let's also go to 8th notes, probably. So we've got like a 1, 2, 3, Um, cool. Then we could take these and make some kind of like gold's also nice. I'm not like entirely married to this this preset I made in Phase Plant for this kind of motion. I like it for like the long held out one. Oh, one last question. What about, you said weekly download? I see it's per month, but can I also do it for like just 1 month? Yeah, I think so. I think you can do it just for 1 week. My understanding is it's $5 per week, and it's billed weekly. But maybe it's there. I don't know. I get it free with the producer download, or sorry, the producer dojo, which I'm part of, which is like $1,000 a year. So that's like a whole different thing. We get the weekly download for free, but the weekly download is supposed to be $5 per week, and I think you can do it for just 1 week. You can definitely do it for just 1 week. Yeah. So if like we grab Ascend, which is like my favorite piano now, Heaviosity, best company out there in my opinion. For like certain things, like they make a lot of orchestral samples and other things, but like really, really good ones. This is just a piano, but it's not just a piano. You know, it's like so badass. And we can also maybe copy over this guy. Oh man, we totally need drum and bass beats for this. So I also chained with KJ Saka, who is like, I don't know, he's so fucking rad, but he's also like the best drummer on the planet. Right, so we are at precisely the right tempo for something like this, right? So that we can, I don't know, I've been wanting to make a lot of like kind of weird, like chill, liquid, drum and bass kind of stuff lately. If that makes sense. Oh, we're still just on the side signal. No wonder this set sounds so bonk. Hell yeah. So this is a 2, 4, 1, 5, 2, 2, 3 prime. Cool. Let us grab this core mini, and then let us grab. This one's really nice for playability. Cool. Oh man, there's a lot of latency. Might be a way to get less of that. I am not entirely sure how though. This would be the first thing. Is that not what it says in my hardware? You know what I'm saying? Buffer size, latency. Oh, there's a 10% chance you're gonna lose the audio for a second.